All right, kicking off Steve's favorite division. What do you call it, Steve?
The Metropolitan.
Yeah, we're going to start with the Carolina Hurricanes, who are anything but. You know, I want to say this. The San Jose Sharks of the early 2010s were a team loaded with talent, sort of always near the top of the standings in the regular season, just never quite got it done in the playoffs. And, you know, every 5 to 7 years, we get one of those. If the Hurricanes don't start to get it done in the next couple years, are they in danger of becoming the next extremely talented team to sort of be forgotten?
I know. The Blues were in danger of that, too.
They were.
For a while. They were definitely in the same category.
There were Blues teams that were super talented through the 90s that were forgotten.
Really good Final Four appearances. And, oh, gosh, we keep running into doesn't matter. Does not matter. Carolina has made the Final Four a few times. There's a lot of teams that their hump is getting to where Carolina's hump is, but there is definitely a hump. There's a gap between them and the great teams of the past decade plus.
Now, they finished first in the division last year by a point, 113. Guys, what do you think the betting odds are for their points this year?
113?
Yeah.
I'll say 113.5. There's not really much reason to expect them to have taken a step backwards.
Jesse Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the division from last year. You said 113. What's their over-under? The over-under is probably not going to be that high.
That's a pretty high over-under.
Yeah, but it's going to be like 110.5.
107.5.
Wow.
Are you guys taking the over?
107.5. I would, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I'll take the
now,
over.
if the Hurricanes, can be accused of anything, it's being extremely talented all the way through. And I want to start with the defense because the Athletic has this ranked as they are ranked as the number 1 defense in the entire league. Here's why. Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns, pair 1. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, pairing 2. And pairing 3, Dmitry Orlov and Tony DeAngelo. There are other
Orlov.
options too. Jalen Chatfield is making his way. Caleb Jones. They are big. They are offensive, and they are smart. Like, this is one of the smartest defense cores we've seen. Can you spot a weakness?
Yeah. I mean, that right side isn't spectacular defensively. Like, Burns has his weaknesses. He's big and mean, but he has his weaknesses. And Tony DeAngelo is that without being big, right? So I would say that's a weakness. A weakness that I think a lot of teams would die to have is, well, gosh, who plays the first power play unit?
Yeah, and I don't know. There is definitely not enough power play minute to pass around.
Do you give it to Burns? Do you give it to DeAngelo? Do you switch? Do you have both? They have an abundance of talent. They're going to be fine. And whatever happened to that Brett Pesce trade?
Didn't happen.
Never happened.
Slavin and Svechnikov are now cleared. They are no longer injured. So I want to ask you guys about this too. It looks like they're going to try out Svechnikov on the PK. And they are trying it. Does it? What does having, and we've seen this a little bit in Toronto too with Austin Matthews starting to center the PK. What does it mean to have such a great player on the penalty kill?
Well, teams have to be scared because, listen, penalty kills get breakaways all the time. The Leafs get one every game, it seems, but it's like David Kampf on a 2-on-1 with Zach Aston Reese. You know what I mean? And I think teams are finally starting to get hip to the idea that, hey, the best players in the league are the best skaters.
Right.
A lot of them are the best workers. Get them out there. They're going to create situations for themselves that get the puck out of their end primarily, can turn it into a scoring chance, and they got a better chance of scoring than the other guys.
Jesse Blake, this group has not needed a lot of upgrades, but they did make one notable addition. He's a person that we all know well. His name is Michael Bunting. He's from Scarborough, Ontario. If you're talking to a Canes fan today, what are you telling them about Michael Bunting, good and bad?
They're going to absolutely love him because of his energy, and they're going to absolutely hate him because of his energy. Like, Michael Bunting is going to be running around wreaking havoc, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic because that's what you need out of a certain player in your lineup. You need that energy boost at times, and he doesn't know when to dial it back. occasionally, and he gets himself into trouble. And I hope that Michael Bunting has learned from his time in Toronto, where he did cross the line at times, and that he's for the Carolina Hurricanes with a coach like Ron Brind'Amour. I think that's somebody who's going to harness Michael Bunting's energy and use it in the correct way. So I'm very excited for Hurricanes fans. He's going to be up on that first line, right?
I think he will be up on the first line. And I mean, Carolina has they don't have a first line as much as they have 4 second lines, which is still pretty good. You know what I mean? And you could argue they have a first line and maybe 3 second lines. They're extremely, extremely good. What the Hurricanes need to do with Bunting is not completely abandon him and expect him to do all things gritty, which Rod Brind'Amour will simply not allow them to do.
No, because there's so many other guys in the lineup that can fill up those places on the ice. Like Tony D, from the defenseman side, Tony DeAngelo is going to be in everybody's face. And that'll help Michael Bunting.
Yeah, he got ISO'd in Toronto last year, essentially.
Yeah,
right? It's he's the one guy on the team that causes trouble. Let's poke him.
Brent Burns probably hasn't consumed human flesh, but it's greater than 0%.
Yeah, he might.
You know what I mean?
Just a little bit of a finger, maybe.
Yeah, just a nibble.
Yeah, just it's in his system.
He tried
it's been there.
It's around a campfire.
So that's the thing about the Hurricanes is that they have great defense, they have great offense, and they play tough. How do you stop this team? And we haven't gotten there, but are you going to bring up Marty Necas?
Oh, bring him up.
Marty Necas had 28 goals this last season.
Is that good?
That's a dude who might score 40. I don't know if you've ever watched Marty Necas shot compilations, but his shot is as good as anybody in the league, just in terms of his snapshot coming off of a rush, and it's unbelievable. And he's only getting better. We forget that he was 12th overall.
I know,
when he was drafted, and he's now maturing to this player after a pretty slow start to his career, but the talent was always there. And now that it is 28 goal season, it might turn into 35.
And a team that's hard to make too.
Yeah,
you're 12th overall. It's the Hurricanes.
They're deep.
Where's the gap in the lineup?
Well, and
he burst through.
One guy I've got both eyeballs on this year is Seth Jarvis, another Leaf connection. He underwent a bit of a transition last year because obviously they liked his scoring, but his defensive game. And if you're going to play in Rod Brind'Amour's system, you got to have a defensive game. Yep. You got to have a 200-foot game. Rod Brind'Amour and Jeff Daniels kind of held him back, and they said you're gonna work on defense this year. And we've seen teams do this with young players. We saw it in Toronto with Nazem Kadri, actually. It's you're not during the terrible Toronto Maple Leaf finishing last year. That's where Nazem Kadri learned how to play defense.
7 goals, whatever it was.
Yeah, Seth Jones had 39 points, which was a step back from the previous year where he had over 40 points. Sorry, Seth Jarvis, excuse me.
There's Caleb Jones,
Seth
Jones,
and
Seth Jarvis. Very confusing.
So they saw the huge improvements in the defensive areas that they needed to see. Now we're going to get Seth Jarvis. I even wrote Seth Jones down. How hilarious. We're now going to get Seth Jarvis unleashed. Yeah. What's that look like?
Oh my gosh. It looks like the Hurricanes picking their opponents apart. Is there a deeper offense in the league? Is there a deeper defense in the league? There are 3 probably NHL starting goaltender.
Well, that's the next on the
They don't need all these guys. And if I'm not mistaken, they're not even up against the cap.
They're not. And they're 3 guys. Can you, without looking at cap friendly?
I have the page open.
Okay, but don't look.
I don't have it up.
Oh, you can't
have it up.
Okay, you've got Anderson, Kochetkov, and Ranta. How much do they cost combined?
Didn't Freddie take a discount this summer?
Yeah, he did.
4?
They cost a total, the 3 of them, $6.9 million.
Oh,
so
nice.
They average about $2.3 million per goaltender. That is spectacular value. That is wild value.
Wow. So on average, they make less than Peter Mrazek.
Right. Now, it's fair to say that Ranta and Anderson at some point or another are going to need maintenance days, right? They normally get injured throughout the course of a season. They are also on the backside of 30, and there's nothing wrong with pulling a groin every once in a while. But
Kochetkov also disappointed me a bit. He just showed all this promise. You start to think that with a prospect, progress is linear.
It's not, yeah.
Dude, in the back half of the season, he threw up some stinkers.
He did.
And then the one game he was in the playoffs, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
No.
But this is the way you got to structure your goaltending in 2023 in this new world of NHL is you need a committee of goalies who could all at any point in the season be your starter. And that's how the Vegas Golden Knights proved that, hey, this is the way, this is the mentality. Because at any moment they might go down, at any moment they might be hot or cold. And it worked with Florida. Alex Lyon is the one who got them to the playoffs.
That's right.
Florida Panthers wouldn't be in the playoffs without Alex Lyon, and then Bobrovsky's the one who carried them through the playoffs. So Carolina set up perfectly in goal as well, because this is the system you need.
What are the odds?
Unfair.
What are the odds they still have all three of those goalies by the time this video is even released?
I think they will.
100%.
I don't think they're waiving them.
Well,
I don't
no,
think
not
they're
waived. Not waived. I'm saying traded.
No, why?
There's
Why?
a need.
Why?
There's a
Okay.
What
so-
do they
okay.
need
You
in
can
return?
get some random off waivers, or you can get like a legitimate NHL.
What do they need in return?
Yeah, that's
why
the
would
thing.
they trade them?
That
This
would
is
be the thing.
Even with
that
your,
would be the thing.
So I had to look this up because I was like, I thought Kochetkov had a good year last year. He did.
Did he?
Even with the stinkers, guys, 12-7, 12-7-5, 2.44 goals against average and a 909 save percentage. That's not bad for 24 games for a young-ish goalie. He is 24.
Yeah,
It
909 is
time.
good. 909 is in today's NHL where scoring is going up and save percentages are going down. It's fine. I'm just saying he had some real bad games.
Okay, so
I'll tell you how he finished the season. His last 4 games, Steve's not wrong. 850, 932, 792, 870.
okay, right.
Were any of those against the Leafs? There was a really bad one against
There's
the Leafs.
2 against the Leafs. He had allowed 5 goals against the Leafs in the third last game of the season. Then he came back against the Leafs in the home and home, and he allowed 3 goals, but it was on 44 shots.
So,
Wow.
With
Okay,
that
much
said, they did win the division by a point last year. Where do you have the Carolina Hurricanes this year in the division? Jesse, I'm going to start with you.
Number 1.
Number one.
I don't think there's a way that Carolina isn't amongst the top 3 teams in the entire National Hockey League this season.
Yeah, I don't think I need to overthink this. The Devils might score more goals than them, and they'll be close, but I think the Hurricanes are first in the mid-tro.
I'm so glad I get to do this because I have the Carolina Hurricanes at second.
You stink!
And I am
Oh,
one
of
of
course
their
you do.
biggest
Yeah.
believers.
Of
But I
course.
don't know that they can stop the other red and white team in their division. But
The
we'll get to
Pittsburgh
that.
Penguins.
That's right. Yeah.
They have a new
Yeah,
alternate.
the red and white Pittsburgh Penguins, Adam's favorite.